just a quick introduction about myself and AlphaBiz Solutions. I'm one of the directors of the company, and we specialise in ERP systems, predominantly the Cybez and MYB product range for the growing mid-tier market. And we also do software development and extensive business intelligence report writing. And previously in the past, we've always come across limitations and hurdles when it came to empowering mobile users with tight integrations with their ERP systems. We've customized applications, but there's always been a limit that when you build a custom developed application, there's constant development that needs to be done. So it's not something that the client sort of favors. And we got quite excited when I caught up with Clinton early in the year and learned more about his platform, which Clinton will go through shortly. This really has got some powerful flexibility in building the sort of requirements and workflows and how it connects to the back end or to your ERP system. That's enough for me, so I'll hand it over to you, Clinton, and get you to start the presentation.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Shadi. Thanks for that. Yeah, so my name's Clinton Schroeder, and I've got my partner, Kevin Fenter, with me. We're founders of the company TOKN, and we'll talk a little bit about the concept and the product and how it fits in with what you guys are doing. But essentially, the idea of this comes from, today everybody's trying to really look at how they can be more effective and efficient in their business. ERP is sort of in and it's quite mature, and now we're looking to go to the next stage. And one of the ways of doing that is by using digital technology to better embrace the mobile workforce. Give people tools to be able to access the data and systems wherever they are, and remove duplication and waste and paper from processes. So that's the big drive, and it's not just happening, in one or two industries, but it's happening in every industry that we can see. So people are trying to create these digital applications and work on an app-based manner where they can to gain efficiencies in their process. So one of the ways of doing this is actually, you can go and get software out there to build applications. You can get more software to then sort of integrate to your data and your systems, and then you can even get more software to sit on top of all of that to manage it all. So it gets quite complex when you start going down this road, and you need money for the software, but you also need a lot of effort and key development resources to help you put this together. So and I guess that's kind of where we come in. What we've done is we sort of get that all out the way. We sort of replace all of that with an easy to use platform tool set, and we've made it cloud enabled, so people can access it instantly and use that tool set to generate these digital tools that they need. Now, we sort of about 6 years ago, we actually were working on a large ERP project, and my partner Kevin sort of started tinkering with this idea to say, well, this must be a better way, because we just saw people spending millions and millions trying to actually, achieve this. And we put together a minimum viable product. It was trialed at a large engineering firm at the time, and the results showed that, we could actually do this quite substantially cheaper than the competition is trying to do it at. If you look at just getting this thing set up and implemented. So from there, we sort of launched the concept, and about 2 years ago we founded, and since then we've been working with the mid-tier market to try and help them, because they typically don't have the huge budgets. They need the tools just as much as anybody else, probably more so. So we sort of focused our product around that market. Currently, we're working with companies like Mader Group, Verus, Frio Crane, Pindan Construction around Perth. So these guys are building out their mobility all on different systems, and using Token to generate that. So what is it exactly? We'll talk a little bit about the concept, but essentially you've got Token in this sort of illustration on the screen here is a bit of software sits in the middle, and what it does is it connects to different data sources and ERP systems, and it exposes that data to mobile devices or any smart device. Actually, I mean, we're building it out for head-up displays in vehicles. We're looking at drone integration, and of course all your tablets and devices as well. And vice versa, people on those smart devices can input data and transact and actually push data back via Token into one or more systems. So inside Token, you can have multiple business units, and you can grow that business out. So you can start, for example, with the maintenance business, but you might want to do purchasing and HR potentially. You can add those on. Similarly, it goes across different business types as well. So we're working with maintenance, construction, asset-intensive industries, but we're also seeing big scope in government and education institutions, health. So the verticals are there as well. So it's a bit of software that sits in the middle and connects the two. It's made up of two pieces. The first bit is a bit that sits on your actual device, and we call that the Token client. The Token client you download from one of the stores. It's a bit of setup software that you download. Once you download that and open it up, Token then takes over, authenticates you, and gives you the necessary applications that you need to transact with. Now, the second bit of software is the actual platform itself, and that's kind of where you manage your mobility from. You can build your applications, you can decide who gets what, you manage your user base there with integration to Active Directory if you have one, and you can then also manage your connections to the different systems and set those up as you go. It's a low-code environment, so it's designed around drag and drop principles, and making it easy for someone to get going. And we have a lot of templates in there, so you could quick start with a timesheet template, for example, and move forward from there. All right, so that's just an overview basically of what it does. There are a few advantages of our product over and above what you might get in the market. So one thing to note straight off the bat is that once you've got your application on your device, it stays there. We don't go. It's not a web app. We don't go and fetch HTML code and everything every time you connect. So the stuff that you need to actually transact and perform your jobs stays on your phone, whether you're connected or not. So that means you can continue to transact and validate while you're offline. And we have a special, in our client, we have a special offline processing log that records everything and automatically pushes that when a connection is found, and vice versa. Token will automatically pull things onto the device from the required systems. So that's a differentiator there. We also have for the medium-sized companies, we're catering for bring your own device. So all of our customers allow their employees and contractors to connect to Token on their own device. So our client kind of gives us a separation between work and play, a secure separation, and we're able to control the Token element of it from Token. So we can remote wipe that element of the device. We can track that, and we can actually look at the traffic as well. So people therefore don't have to provision a device. It saves them between $3,500 to $4,000 a year just on managing essentially a mini computer. We have something called one-touch access. So this is really making it easier for users to do the initial setup. Essentially, when they've downloaded that client from the App Store, they're able to then open the app, and Token takes care of everything. We're sort of removing the need for people to enter credentials and things like that. So that's a big plus in terms of getting up and going quite quickly. We have, as I said, ready-to-use templates in the store, so we're trying to make it, easy for people to get going. We generally look at the most commonly used requirements in the market, and we build our templates around those. But as I said, the tools are there. You don't get limitation on that. You can build out what you need. It's not an ERP implementation. It happens really quickly. As I said, it's a cloud service, so you can go in there, register your company, register your interest, and trial the product for free. There's no installation or infrastructure to worry about. You can get going doing like that. So that's okay too. It's a low maintenance environment, so it's because it's all cloud based. You don't have to have a huge support overhead on that. We look after that, and it's obviously because of that that offline processing mode where we don't send a heavy payload back and forth. The speed is very, very good. Yeah, and we've got a few extra things there. As I said, we connect to a few different kinds of systems. We're mainly focusing on the MyOb products. Sybase is also being talked about. We're working with SAP, IFS at the moment as well. So those are some of the ERPs that we're working with. And we have inside the console. We'll give you a bit of a brief look at that now, but we do have extra things in there too. So around device management, you get to be able to actually, not only locate where the device are, you can geo ring fence and protect or allow devices to go into certain areas, things like that as well. We'll have a quick play. I think what I'll show you first, or I'll get Kev, what we'll do now, I think, is have a quick look at your client, and we'll look at what it looks like, on the device, just to give you a feel for that and some of the templates that we've already got. And then we'll take you through to the platform itself and just give you a show of what that looks like too. I'll make you presenter, Kev. You can.
Yep.
You can.
Okay.
You can do that. All right. I think you're there.
Yep. I'm just clicking the button. It's asking me which screen I want to share, and I want to share.
Well, while Kevin's doing that, I'll just add another thing. So essentially, a tip from us is you shouldn't have to choose your devices around the software you're given. Your software should support your devices. So we get a lot of questions on what device, what's the compatibility and all of these points. That can, if you start doing that, you can get yourself into a little bit of trouble when you try to add new devices, replace devices, and things like that. So something to be wary of in terms of mobility and your ecosystem is make sure that your software supports your devices. Okay, we can see you.
All right, so I'm sharing the screen. You should be able to see a rendering of the mobile device on the screen.
Yeah, I can see it. Okay,
so what you're looking at there is basically my mobile device. I have started filtering the application list. So if I just go back, you'll see all the apps on the device, and I'm then typing in TOKN so that we can get the filter. So what we're seeing there is the client application. So that's the TOKN digital client, and that's basically the container where all of the token related apps are delivered and where the user will actually interact with those applications. At the moment, this device is running in an offline fashion, so I'm not connected to any network or anything like that. And if I open it, you will then see that it will open the screen. And from the screen, the user is presented with a menu structure. So we can see a couple of menu tiles there, and we can also see a couple of badges related to those specific apps. The badges are something that we can control, which basically indicates to the user that there's potentially something that needs to be actioned. Or if you want to show them just an indication of a number of records or something like that, that's something that we can control quite easily. So on the screen right now, we can see obviously the tiles. I'll jump straight into the apps that we've got that are specifically related to MyOb first. So the timesheet application that we see in the middle here, this My Timesheet, if we open that one, basically within this we can see this is a timesheet application that we have done for the Mader group, and this is for their field workers to be able to go and capture timesheets on a weekly basis. So they're presented with a screen, and from the screen on the top left, we can see this icon with a 3 lines. We refer to it as the hamburger icon because it looks like a hamburger. But if I tap that one, there we can see a list of timesheets by week ending date. And if the user selects one of those, then they can actually see the entries related to that specific week ending date. On the screen, they can see some information to indicate to them that the timesheet has already been submitted. And they have the ability then to create new entries. So the way it works is typically they would create some default header information. So if we tap the down arrow here for the weekly timesheet, that's basically some header information where they will choose the week ending date that they want to create timesheet for, and then they would specify, for example, a job code.
This webinar from AlphaBiz, and
they would choose an activity, they would choose the work center,
from your device,
and then they would specify a start and an end time. Let's set that at 9:20, set that at 10:20, together with any notes. And that would be the information that is then recorded for the header of that specific timesheet. They can then go ahead and for each of the days, so here we can see their week runs from Friday through to Thursday, and against any of those days, they can go and specify the number of hours that they worked on that specific day. And that header information that they had previously captured is then applied to this specific line item.
okay, you see whether it's can be that kind of thing. We are already halfway through.
All right.
Let's see what you could say. Yeah, exactly. I just want.
All right. So basically, that's the overview of the timesheet and what the users are able to do. Once they've captured the time, we can see on the screen that it shows them the job, the number of hours, and what they captured the time against. And tapping the line item actually opens that line item and allows them to make any adjustments that they need. And once they are ready and they've captured all the time, they can then go ahead and they can actually request a signature from their supervisor. So here we've got a signature box on the screen. And if you tap on the signature box, it actually opens up, asks you to enter a name and a signature. And on saving it, then allocates that signature and name against the timesheet. And at that point, they can then do the submission of that timesheet. So there's a button at the bottom. And when it submits the timesheet, it actually sends it into the Green Tree system and creates that timesheet for that week ending date. And by the same token, once that timesheet's created, it then becomes available in the list for them to select and to view, obviously, once it's been created in the backend system.
So that's all offline.
Right, so that's an overview. So basically what you're seeing here from a screen perspective is the screen we built on the console and the integration to the Green Tree system we set up on the console. We will show you the web console shortly. And basically you can then create apps and you can consume the data from the backend Green Tree system as long as there's an API that allows you to get the data, then it does make that process very much easy. Like Clinton mentioned, we have already got the integration to Green Tree system, so those APIs are standard across Green Tree, and we just hook into the API and then utilize what that provides, so we can get the data onto the device. I will also show you an SAP related application. So the point to make is that on the mobile device, we're not locked into any specific backend system. So you can have an app which is pointing to one backend system, and you can have another app that points to another system, or you could have one app that actually consumes data from different backend systems. So you can get a fusion of information, tying it all together and giving it the correct context. All right, so if we go to purchasing, I go to the purchasing tile, there we can see approval of purchase order. This is an SAP backend system where we've extracted a list of purchase orders pending for approval for the user. So my user on this device has got a couple of purchase orders. There's 6 of them to be approved. And what we can see on the screen is we've got a couple of levels of approval. So if you do the first level of approval, then it goes to the next level. So I'm the test user. If I approve this purchase order will go into SAP system. It will get approved. And that purchase order will then go to the procurement manager for the next level of release. But for me, it will then be removed from my device because I've actioned it. So you can get that workflow from one device to another, all the while having a single source of truth in your backend system. So just as an example there, we can see obviously the purchase order date, any values, any line items, any attachments. So we can manage attachments and open attachments as well. Basically giving the user the ability to make the call based on the information that's available to them. All right, so if we scroll down, then we see the next purchase order coming up there, and so on. All right, so what I will do now is I'll actually press this approval button over here. I'll approve that. We should see that there's a synchronization record that was created. You see that popped up on the screen. And what that means is because I'm working in an offline fashion, if I go back and if I go to my pending list of synchronizations, there I can see that I've got a pending synchronization with an approval of this purchase order document. So because I'm offline, it just keeps it there in the sync list, and as soon as there's a connection, it will then actually submit that information or submit that purchase order for approval, and it would then go back to the backend system, do the approval, and give me a response. All right. We do also have the ability to obviously do quite a few other things with the platform. So as an example, what we did for Anglo Gold is we gave them the ability to create a notification. So again, this is an SAP backend system, but when you open the screen, the first presentation to the user is for them to select their functional location. So they drill down through a couple of levels of functional location. And each time you select one, it's basically adding to your functional location structure. And once you've selected the entire structure, you can then go ahead and you can create your notification. There's a few simple fields that you need to add to the screen. As an example, we'll select the priority. We'll go to search the work center. Okay, so there's our listing of the work centers. Reported by me. And we have the ability to integrate the camera to be able to take pictures. So as an example, for this specific notification, I can then open the camera. I'll point that to my desk, the picture, tell it to use that picture. And specifically what we did for Anglo Gold was they wanted that picture to actually be attached to the SAP system in the form of a PDF. So what we did is once it's taken that attachment, converts that image to a PDF, and it actually sends that together with the payload to the SAP system and actually adds that attachment into the backend system. Basically allowing whoever does the planning against this notification to see the problem and to then allocate the correct resourcing and spare parts and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Maybe we should move on to the console then, Kev. It's good.
Yep. Okay. All right, so that's the client. As Clint mentioned, we do have the ability to wipe obviously the token portion of the data on the device, because that all sits within that that client which sits on the device. All right. All right, so that's the endpoint. So that's basically the user experience. But to get to the user experience, there's a couple of steps that you go through. And I'll just bring this up. I'll drag this along. All right, so what you should see now is the landing page for the Cloud Console. This is where we go to configure all of the stuff that you've seen. I'll sign in. So on signing into the console, the landing page that you're presented with is basically your company that you're assigned to. So I'm assigned to a test company. The company can have instances. So specifically when you're talking about ERP, you can have dev quality production kind of instances so that you can do some testing before you move things into a productive environment. And you can mimic those instances on the console, so you can create those instances for each of the companies that you potentially linked to. If I go to the company to update the details, obviously you can go in and you can set the status of the company, update any information that's required. Here's the list of instances, so development and demo. You can add additional instances if necessary. So if I go back to the landing page. At this point in time, I am connected to the development system. So I've got the development instance there. You can see the demo system. So you can switch between instances quite easily. But basically, from the screen, we can see I'm linked to first company. So that's the one that's selected at the moment, the development system. And from there, you can then start the process. So the process for us is really quite simple in that down the left-hand side, there's a couple of steps. And you basically follow the steps from top to bottom. So the first thing you would do is create connections to backend systems. Once you've created those connections and the extracts that you need, you then go through the process of building applications. Once you've built it, you then manage the application. So how do I get the application to the specific users? And then once that application's out there against all the users, then how do we actually manage the devices that we see against the platform? So if we go to connect, so the first thing we do is we create a connection. Here you can see some examples. We have got a MADA connection, which is green tree. We can see this is REST-based web service. We've got a specific user to use, and we've got a host that we use basically from an endpoint perspective. Important to note here is that we also have, as an example, an SAP connection with an SAP endpoint, which we can then utilize. So once you've created that connection, you can then go ahead and you can do what we call a data extract, basically creating an object. And if we go to the green tree, refresh there quickly, make sure I've got all of these. All right, so against that data extract, we can see an endpoint sitting there. So basically it indicates to us that we will call a specific endpoint. In this case, we're calling the timesheets for a very specific user, user 1378. So when we go to next, basically what this does is it executes the REST service and gives us the ability to create a structure. So from that REST service, we can tell the system which fields we actually want to extract from the structure when it does call that web service. And based on the fields that we've selected, we can then filter the amount of data that we get. So for example, potentially this green tree web service exposes 60 fields as an example. If our mobile app is only going to use 20 of those fields, then we can just specify the 20, and the data that then flows from the green tree system through token to the mobile is only the 20 fields. So we can limit the amount of data that's traveling up and down the connection. Once we've extracted our fields, we can set a couple of keys in terms of how we want to structure the data, and that extract structure is then basically built. Right? So we can see on the screen it's executed that function. We've built the structure, and what we can then do is we can go through the process of build. But before I go to build, just against the connect, we can also see that we've got some data update ability as well. So in a similar fashion, you can create an update back to the system. We don't have any in our development system just yet. And what we can also do is we're able to link Active Directory. So from a user-based perspective, you can actually connect to an Active Directory source, and you can tell the system which groups within Active Directory you want to synchronize to the token system. So you can use Active Directory as your source of truth from a user perspective, and basically get that data to flow from Active Directory into the token system, and allow the users to then log in with their AD user ID. Okay, so once we've done that connect, we've got our structure, we go along to build. Once we build, here we can see a listing of applications. So what we see here right now is a couple of apps. If I go to customize, what this then gives us is the ability to visually build what that application looks like. So that app that we saw on the mobile, this is the development representation of that specific application. And from the screen, we're able to link in additional JavaScript functions if we need. So we can add additional functionality, and we have some drag drop ability where you can drag fields and drop them into the screen and basically build what that screen should look like. We also have the ability to go along and to test that application. When I press test, it goes along and it actually calls the data function and injects it onto the screen. So basically showing us what the screen would look like once we've extracted data from the backend system. From here, we're able to also then just flick between the different screen sizes, so you can get a visual representation of what that app will look like on the different types of devices. So from a mobile perspective versus a tablet versus a computer screen. All right. So from the workbench, we then also have the ability to go along to do screens and assets, so we can manage any additional assets. So if there are image files and any other styling files that you need to send across, you can add them here. And as Clinton mentioned, we do have screen templates. So all the apps that we've built so far, we will make available as screen templates. And when you're creating a new screen, you can then reference it to an existing template. So it'll just copy that screen code, and then you just modify the things that you specifically need to modify. Right, so I'll just go back here. On the screen designer, interesting to note is that we do also have the ability to get to the actual code. As you can see, it's HTML JavaScript code. And for the more advanced users, you can actually go into the detail and do very specific things if you need to. Okay, so that's basically how you build an application. And then the next part of the process is the app manager. So how do we get the apps to the specific users? So when we land on the app manage part of the cloud console, we can see a list of groups. So here we can see some groups that have been created. If I expand the group, I can see applications that are allocated to a specific group. So if I want to, for example, add a Made timesheet to the maintenance group, I can just grab that application and drop it into the maintenance group. It then does the association. So against maintenance, we can see the Made timesheet. And what you can also do is if you want to see which users will get the group, if you switch the view from apps to users, you can then see in the maintenance group, we've got 3 users, which means that timesheet application then becomes available to those 3 users within that group. All right. You can also get to users and groups specifically. So if you want to go and do any user maintenance, you can add new users and you can add new groups and you can assign users to groups. So for example, if I want to assign this test user to Bridget, I just drag them and drop them there. And then you can see against that specific group, you can see that listing of the users. Just bear in mind that if you are using Active Directory as the source, the groups and the users will be synchronized by the extract from Active Directory. Okay, so what that means is when the user signs into the mobile device and they connect to the system will take the user, it'll check which groups they're assigned to, and against the groups, it'll actually deploy the specific applications. So through the assignment, it knows which applications need to be deployed, and it'll deploy those apps to the mobile device, making them available so that the user can actually work with those apps in an offline fashion. All right. And the final part of the cloud solution is in the device manager. So if we go to the device manager, every single device that connects to the system, we are able to see here because we keep a record of it. We do actually track the devices. From the console, you are able to go and flag devices for remote wiping. You can blacklist to prevent connectivity. And based on the information that we get from the devices, we can see battery levels. As an example, you can also flag the devices to be redeployed. So if you create a new application and you want to deploy it to specific users, you can do that quite easily by just flagging those users for a redeployment to drop those new applications in. And what we're also able to do, because we get such rich information from the mobiles, you can actually then, by GPS, see where those devices are connecting from a last known position perspective, and you can drill right down to street level. So you can keep zooming in, and eventually you'll get to a point where you actually see the last known location of where that was connecting from. We do also have the ability to geofence. So if we go to geofence, I don't have anything there now, so I'll create a new geofence. So for an existing device, I can then go and tell the system that that device should only be able to work within a specific geolocation. Let me just zoom in. Okay, so as an example, let's say that we have a group of maintenance users and we only want them to be able to do maintenance in a specific location, meaning they have to do the data recording at the site where they need to do the maintenance. You can then go ahead and you can specify that for that user, the application should only work within a specific geo-fenced area. And by the same token, you can also then go and say that the application should not work within a specific area. From a reporting perspective, from the mobiles, we keep a list of all the data which is coming in and going out of the system. So at any point in time, you can go back and you can have a look at that specific information. You can cross-reference it and just see what the data consumption is on a user basis. We can also see an update of all the statuses. So every 10 minutes, the client actually sends a health token. So it sends a health information update to the server. So you can then see where that device was, if the GPS is enabled on the device, together with battery level. We do get that information coming from the mobile, and we're also able to get a log. So every single packet of information that comes into the system and goes out, we keep a log of it. So if you need to, you can go from an administrative perspective and go through the logs.
That's good.
And the final thing, as Clinton mentioned, is that we've got a few things rolled together in here. What you're seeing on the screen from a policy perspective is what we call mobile device management, and basically allows you to manage the devices. You can force password, and if necessary, you can disable camera. Point to note though, because we are very much focused on a bring your own device policy, whether or not we can disable the camera is really whether the user actually opted in to allow the camera to be accessed. So there is an element of what the user allows, and that the same applies for geofencing location perspective. If the user allows GPS data to be accessed, then you'll get this information. If not, then you obviously would not get that information. Obviously, if you've provisioned devices from a company perspective, then the idea would be that you tell the users that they need to enable the GPS and all that kind of stuff, so that from a safety perspective, you can actually find where they were if you need to go on a island. Yep, that's it.
Excellent. Okay, good. That was a good overview. I'll just come back to mine. Yeah, so that just gives you a rough overview, guys, of the platform. That cloud console is to be released in January. It's just in its final stages of testing. We do offer the same product on an on-premise version. Some of our clients have their own infrastructure, and they prefer to have their own application. So there is an on-premise version available, but the cloud is multi-tenancy, and that's going to be available in January. Sorry, my screen is now doing funny things. I think, Shadi, I don't have anything further to add. I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah. No, look, just a quick wrap up then. Actually, before we go, does anyone have any questions that we can answer now? That's okay. What Shani will do is she'll send everyone a follow-up email with the link to this recording. Please forward it on to anyone that you feel might find this information useful. It was important to us to give you a deep overview end-to-end from how to design the app to the end user. Just to, I think the reason being is that the key takeaway was that we can go now from what used to take weeks to develop to days. And that's really exciting for us, that, you know, you've got a solid platform or a business management solution, whatever it may be, but now you've, you know, within days you can empower users to key in critical information. So that's enough for us, I suppose. We've gone a bit over time. I want to thank everyone for attending, and we'll follow up. So thank you.
Thanks, Shadi. Thanks very much. Same from us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.